It's not fair for us to ask 100% capacity of ourselves because, like you're saying, we're not always at 100%, right?
Hmm.
But the way I would tweeze that out is that if you give 30 and you had 30, you gave 100%.
Agreed.
That's what you did. And
Hmm.
that's the difference.
Introducing The Vixen Voice, a podcast for ambitious women entrepreneurs ready to move into their feminine essence, live their truth, and unlock their full potential. I'm your host, April Roberts, and each week I'll be interviewing inspiring women who decided to take a leap of faith to pursue their dream. Women who believe that they were born for something bigger. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of The Vixen Voice. I'm very excited because today we have Shannon Mitchell with us, and I've known Shannon for a long time. In fact, her podcast was one of my very first guesting appearances, and she was such an amazing host that I was just like, I have to have you on my show. And
Thank
we've
you.
chatted a couple of times and stayed in touch, and you're going to see Shannon's just such a beautiful and graceful woman. And she's also a badass. Just wait till we get into all the different things she does, right? So I think she's a beautiful example of kind of balancing it all as you find your way in a new career, in a new business. So I know many people listening, you're in some transition in your life, even if you're just like me and we're kind of midlife and we're like, okay, what's our purpose now? So I think you're going to get tons of value from today. But to tell you a little bit about Shannon, she is a dynamic serial entrepreneur and the founder of Shealo Glo, a natural skincare brand. And we're going to talk about that. You know how much I love natural skincare, dedicated to making self care an accessible and rewarding daily habit for women. So I love that your skincare company is so purpose based, Shannon. And here's the other thing, as Steve Jobs said, and one more thing. Well, there's four more things that Shannon does, right? So she's a health insurance agent, a podcaster, a published author, and get this, she is actually a hybrid publisher as well. And we're going to talk about that today because I loved when Shannon shared her story with me about how she never imagined she'd be a publisher. So I just want you to know, like, our dreams can come true. Please don't stop dreaming. I know a lot of people are feeling anxiety and fear right now, or uncertainty based on what's going on in the world. But when you trust yourself, your inner light, and the higher power you believe in, anything is possible. So, Shannon, I can't wait for you to set that example today. Welcome.
Wow, thank you so much, April. That means a lot coming from you, all of it. Like if you feel like I'm balancing well, I'm doing pretty good.
I love it. I mean, that's kind of the key, and in reality, there is no balance, I like to say,
Right.
right? I've
And it's
asked
true.
many mentors who did many things. I'm like, hey, what is this balance? And they're like, there is no balance. You're just,
No.
when I'm doing this, I'm focused. When I'm doing that, I'm focused. And
Yes.
I do think you're very good at that. And you hold yourself with grace and a good presence. So I think that whoever you're dealing with in one of your multiple businesses or on your podcast or in
Right.
general, like they feel seen and heard by you. And I think that's the
Thank you.
most important thing we can do as business owners and as women, right? Really to see people and celebrate them. So
Yes.
I want to start by celebrating you. So I'd love to hear a pivotal moment in your life that really helped create the woman we see here today.
Oh, that's such a great question. Let's see. Let's see. So I'll say this one, right? Since it's September. So September is my mom's birthday. And a pivotal moment for me was we were sitting in the truck, me and my dad, and I was meeting her again, right? About to graduate high school. Hadn't talked to her in 12 years. And there's people walking down the sidewalk, and I'm not sure which one is going to be my mom, right? Trying to see if I remember this picture that I had when I was little. I lost this picture. I had taped it into this Bible that I had, right? We went back to our old church, back to the city, and I left it in the little pew. I said, no. And the Bible is important. right? Yes, I want the Bible,
Hmm.
like I needed my Bible, but the picture in the Bible was what I was thinking about. So I'm sitting here waiting to see if I would know who she was. And I remembered her, and it was beautiful. And we went out and went shopping in the city, and my dad dropped us off. And that moment, though, I was like, this is a unique moment. Like, not everybody has this moment when they're about to graduate with honors from high school with their mom. Usually their mom is celebrating all this stuff and, like, has been making sure this child has been going to school the last, you know, 13 years.
Yeah, how
Hmm.
beautiful. And I love that, you were just open and excited to see your mom and
Hmm.
to move forward. So, when you
Yeah.
when you celebrated that moment, how what did it
Hmm.
change for you, Shannon? What shifted?
For me, it's kind of like how the students felt about prom and COVID,
Mm,
right? You wait all this time and it was supposed to be this, and maybe not because you still know you're going to have your own individual experience, right? So not because somebody told you it was going to be this way and you thought it always went that way. It's like this is prom and I hope to have my version of it, right? What color is my dress
mhm,
and all the things. So I thought that it was going to be her having a house and going shopping, like we get in her car and go shopping and she pays for everything and we cook and do things that normal mom and daughters do, and we could
mhm.
talk about family and what that means, right? But it wasn't like that. She was
Yeah.
schizophrenic and wasn't in the house by herself, was in this building called the Welcome House in Atlanta where different
Mhm.
people live. And that was not the best place that I wanted her to be, So we talk about
Yeah.
insurance and being set up. And it
Mhm.
just, for me, showed me expectation versus reality and holding those loosely, like this is what you think it would be, but this is what it is when you actually
Yeah.
get there, right? And being okay. And then how do you make this still beautiful with the time that you have? So, and that's
Yeah.
life. And it taught me that.
Yeah, I love that. And, I've been focused a lot lately on being grateful and finding joy in every day and letting go of the negative. And, I've been in spiritual training and healing since 2019. So that's helped a ton. And I think you would agree being an entrepreneur helps a ton because you have to deal with hiccups all the time, right?
It helps after the wave. In the wave, it's just like everything under the water. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And
Yes.
I'm just so struck by right now, I pray for humanity every morning because everybody's
Yes.
stuck in these negative patterns and not even realizing, right? Like it's almost become the norm. And so I love your story because it's like, okay, well, let's focus on the good parts of this because there's plenty of challenging parts to the story you just shared with us, right? But you're choosing to focus on the celebratory part and making the beautiful moment that you could out of the situation, right? And I
Yes.
love that so much. And I just think if the better we all get at that all the time, the more magical life becomes. And I personally think life's
Yes.
supposed to be magical. What do you think?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I heard this thing. It was talking about romanticizing your life. And I had
Yeah.
forgotten about it and was reminded yesterday, say, you know what? I'm gonna start doing that a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh, so tell us a little more about that. Explain a little bit more.
So there was a time when my partner went out of town, right?
Hmm.
And the kitchen wasn't as clean as it usually is. Apartment wasn't as clean. I was like not eating whole meals that I would make sure that we always eat if we're here. I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? This is how you treat yourself and he gets all set up? No. If you set up the plate that way, set the plate up that way for everybody. Like that was my kitchen manager. Like where's the standards at? And so if I'd set things up great for my business partners and my friends and the people I care about, my guy and everybody, right? My guy kids. So for myself, when I walk outside by myself with a cup of tea I made myself, it's still beautiful and I still take the same time to be present how I would try to when they're here because I'm sitting right here and I deserve to
Yeah.
be very well taken care of and I'm going to do that for myself in a loving way, the way that I would do that for those that I love.
No, I love that. That's beautiful. And the way it's been told to me before is like dating yourself, like even taking yourself on dates, right? So
Hmm.
not just what you want to
Yes.
do. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
I'm actually shifting right now when I eat because, it's been very sporadic and I'm on a health journey and I'm on a meal plan now. And, the amazing woman who's helping me was like, April, you're going to fail if you don't set aside 30 minutes for breakfast, 30 minutes for lunch. And dinner's not a problem because I usually wrap my day at 4, but I start very early and I kind of, after prayer and meditation, I usually hit the ground running, right? And
Yes, I
so I
understand.
just, yeah, I mean, most of us get it, right? Like you have so much to do. And so I literally just put 30 minutes for breakfast, trying to eat at the same time every day, and 30 minutes for lunch every day, where I could catch my breath, like go sit at the table, don't eat lunch at my desk, don't stand at the counter in the kitchen like I do half the
No.
time,
Yeah.
right? But like
Hmm.
sit at the table, honor and appreciate my food. And really, I mean, I've only done it for 2 days and it's amazing. And when I put it on my calendar through the end of the year, I'm like, oh, there were only a couple of days I had to shift due to travel or something. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm actually going to have like a routine and then I can look forward to
Yes.
breakfast and lunch, right?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And that's what I talk about in the second book and how to
Oh, I love it.
maximize your capacity, right? It's not
Yes.
about doing more, it's about maximizing the space that you do have. And then you get excited about it. It's not a fog. One of our speakers has a book about money fog, and she talks about the
Yeah.
fear, overwhelm, and guilt when you don't know the details. And I realized that I feel that way with my schedule. Like somebody asks me for time, I'm like, oh no, like, but you feel that way if you don't know where the time blocks are, and you're really good at that. So I needed that tip too, though. 30 minutes for breakfast, 30 minutes for lunch. Got it.
Yeah, because otherwise you're going to take 5 minutes, wolf something down, and you're back to work, right? And like, you're not honoring your body, you're not honoring the food, you're not honoring Mother Nature for giving you the food. Like, there's so many levels. I take time to bless my food, thank it, like all these things
Yes.
now. And it's so crazy. Like, the food tastes better, you digest
Mm,
better, like, there's all
yes.
these benefits. So tell us, you said
Yes.
in my second group, and you said one of our writers. So tell us about your publishing house and all the different
Oh,
projects you have, and then I
yes.
do want to get back to capacity. I love that you shared I needed help with my time management, which I know you've gotten under control now. Because, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
look at everything on your plate, right? So that lets
Right.
everyone know out there, hey, I'm not alone if I'm struggling to find time. And I think
No, you're
capacity
not.
is a key element to that. But before we chat
Yes.
about capacity, just share with us what you do. I know you do amazing women with other female entrepreneurs, and kind of share with us a
Yes.
little about your community, your books, etc.
Absolutely. So let's start with the Women Connected in Wisdom, right? That's the podcast that I had the pleasure of meeting you on and love that episode. And I had you in my planner, right, for your 1 year celebration. So congratulations, because we haven't talked
Ah,
about it since you were
thank you.
celebrating. You're welcome. So we're rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness, right? I talk about Shealo Glo, the shea butter company, that's physical wellness. We spoke about maximizing your capacity, that's intellectual wellness, right? And this is not just IQ, it's how you learn new things. And that's why I was excited to write my chapter on that because we're always learning new things. And that can be the overwhelming part. Like that doesn't stop when you graduate school or whenever you stop school. You have to keep learning. So that was intellectual wellness. There's social wellness and spiritual wellness and all eight that we go into. And we do that per episode. And we have books, two compilation books. The first one had 18 authors. The second one had 12. Some of us are in
Wow.
both. Yes, and we're narrators. We have all the different versions, ebook, print, and audiobook, and that's what we do at Connected in Wisdom Press. And I'll go into the press a little bit because I know you asked about that, but before we
Yeah.
do that, I want to wrap up what you said about the community because that's still women connected in wisdom, right? And this is in no way to exclude the men. We know that the men have to be taken care of, that their wellness is absolutely important, right? And needs to be, I was going to say catered to, but again, that's on an individual level. This is everybody taking great care of themselves, right? not to leave them out, but to create space for women to really be able to talk about the unique ways that we are affected and have gone through different things, right? It's important to have a space to be very clear about that. And so, in that, we created the LinkedIn community where we have daily posts and have space to give support, share wins and challenges and resources that we have so everybody can stay up to date and keep some things on their calendar if that helps you stay on track with maintaining your wellness. Then for the hybrid publishing, that's connected in Wisdom Press, right? So I look forward to publishing male authored books. I look forward to publishing books from everybody. The important part there is the wisdom, right? And how we treat people and the message of the book and the way that we're doing businesses and the resources that this book is going to connect the readers and the listeners to. That's what's going to be the basis of it. And we've talked about different projects, from supporting cancer patients and teams to somebody writing a book that was about fantasy and different things. We published the second Women Connected in Wisdom book. And so that was our first big project. And we've been having fun with it, just helping people lift up their voices and have our editing team support them in the writing process or talk them through what it looks like so they can wrap their mind around what they're stepping into. A lot of people didn't used to have access or didn't think that they would have access to publish a book because of the way that it used to be done. But now it's more accessible, and we're excited to be helping authors and speakers, bring that dream to fruition.
I love that. So, what led you to do that work, Shannon?
So, the 8 dimensions of wellness, right? That's where I feel like the expansiveness and the exponentiation of it comes from, right? I didn't know about it. And when you talk about not being known, that was a huge motivation for me to get my psychology degree. I thought that it was tragic that people were around all these people and somebody would pass away or transition and not really know their friends or the person they were married to or the people around them in their life. Like, so you're really by yourself. Like, really, like we are, but you're really by yourself when you don't know the people, right? So that's always been a motivation of mine and community. Not knowing my mom, I was intentional about building it, right? So
Yeah.
when I learned about the 8 dimensions of wellness, the company that Christine and I created when we started the podcast, she asked me about the topic, and I said, the 8 dimensions of wellness, absolutely. And this came from a project I was working on with an interior designer and an architect, Banakai. We were working at Banakai Designs.
So
Yes.
cool.
And yes, we had some really fun times on some really fun projects. And this one, I was going to be the social media manager. And so I was doing the research on the mood of the page and the information for the value, of course, right? And I found out about the 8 dimensions of wellness. I said, how do I have a degree in psychology and I'm supposed to be helping people make sure they, better their lives and maintain the lives that they want for themselves? And I didn't know about how to consider wellness in all the
Yeah.
different ways to really support somebody. So as soon as I learned this, I felt like the Holy Spirit was like, everybody needs to know about it. Like that was my first, everybody
I
needs to
love
know
it.
about this. Yes. And so we've had a good time doing that. And when we did the podcast, yesterday we did episode 169. But when we did
Wow,
the first book,
congrats.
yes, thank you so much. We were clearly not that far along, but we said, hey, we need this in different versions. When we wanted to do a project to bring writers together. And Christine, my business partner, y'all, Christine Gotro, amazing partner and speaker, author, right, co-publisher on this hybrid publishing company, of course. She knew the power of a book because her and Dr. Sheila K. Collins had their first book together, or Christine's first book, a reiteration of one of Sheila's books, right? A re-release, yes. And so she saw what it did to careers. She saw what it did for opportunities internationally, speaking at the UN, being able to open different doors, different conversations, and pull your seat open at different tables that you want to sit at. She felt like she was seeing those things happen for women and wanted to make it easier for the amazing women that we know and the amazing resources that will actually help the people that need help in these different areas because they've done the work. They've done the years and decades of tenured experience. They just are not in front of everybody. So that book helps keep some of that space open. And that's what we've been excited to help women do.
I love it. So here's what I'm curious about because, I love the idea of collaboration, and I'm talking to a
Yes.
couple of women now about collaborating. How did you and
Mm,
Christine meet? Like, what brought you together on this
mm,
path? Because we may have a listener like, I want that. I want a
yes.
partner.
Yes. 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 So let me ask you this, because you say partner. When you say path, do you mean the business partnership path and Women Connected in Wisdom, or do you mean how did you meet at first and what path was that together?
Oh, I love it. Anything you want to
Mm,
share, just I'm really
okay.
focused on kind of the business and what you'll do together with your
Absolutely.
community and
Yes.
everything, but
Yes. Yes.
anything because I find it fascinating in today's world. Like we just meet people in different ways, right?
Yes.
And collaborate with them in different ways. So whatever you feel like
Yes.
sharing that's valuable,
Okay, so I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to the
go for
beginning
it.
because
Yeah.
this couple just celebrated their fifth anniversary, right? And this is where me and my partner met. So I love this story because Dr. Joe Veazey, do you know Joe Ventris Tolliver? I don't know if we talked about Joe
No,
Ventris
I
Tolliver
don't.
Russell. Okay,
Yeah.
one of the women connected in wisdom, right? One of our first podcast guests, one of our authors and narrators. Met her at church. And the church we were going to, Victory Road Church, on certain days in the young
Yeah.
adult ministry, they will break out in small groups. And so we're in this group together and we're saying things that are aligned, right? But we have like a person in between us or something. We didn't, this is like the first day we didn't know each other, right? So people are
Yeah.
like, did y'all come together? We're like, no, but we figured we would talk after that since we're like sisters, clearly. And so we met there. And eventually in a few months, she invited me to this mastermind group, Manifestation Monday, that she was starting with Christine. So her and Christine were starting a social group for entrepreneurs in Atlanta for us to share our stories, share our
Love it.
challenges, share what we were doing that was working. And the group has been going for 7 years now, I think. And
Wow. Yeah.
so it's years predating Women Connected in Wisdom. We're meeting at Starbucks, meeting at Geek Space, this space that Christine was part of. And I just got to know her through that. One of my favorite stories, the reason it was actually her story that made me come back. She was talking, and I love notebooks. She actually got me this notebook, the one that I put all my speaking
Beautiful.
notes in. Thanks, beautiful. Thank you. One of the first meetings, she told me about this smart notebook, Rocket Book. Have you heard of Rocket Book?
Yes, we used to use them in
Yes.
my financial firm. Yeah.
Right, right. And that's what I was like, this could be good for teams, this could be good for individuals. That's what I thought the first time I saw it. And I was just so blown away with her experience and her ability to connect people and want to connect people, tech advice and things like that. I was like, this is great. I want to come back. And so Christine was one of the anchor people in that group that I really enjoyed meeting with every week. And so fast forward, and I was a kitchen manager at Papado. Had stepped down when my mom was sick because that's what ended up happening, right? I met her late, quote unquote late, right? And then she got sick a few years later, and I said, I don't feel like this is my purpose. I'm doing some of my purpose work. I'm sparking joy in certain points, but if I have to choose, then I need to step down, right?
Yeah.
And at this time, I was a server, and we were in our meeting that we have before we go out and take care of our guests. I said, you know what? It's the last day to apply for this Spotify podcast. I think I want to apply for this, right? And I went in the bathroom and I threw an answer together about what it would be about. And it's crazy when I say 169 episodes now because I was like women and connecting them to resources and like that sounds good. And they were going to fly the winner out and teach them. I said, this feels good. And I did not get accepted. And then I was like, okay. So, I put it out there. I tried, but that showed me that, oh, you really want to, so you do want to do a podcast,
Yeah.
right? And a few weeks later, Christine texted me and I was super excited. She said, what should we do it about? And I already knew because the Holy Spirit had told me, like, everybody needs to know about this. And I knew it would bring in such a variety of women. And that's where we get, right? As experts, we went to college, we went to these places, we kept these relationships and nurtured them over our professional development, right? But they might all be in a certain niche and you're
Yeah.
missing the financial side, right? You're missing the tech side. You're missing whatever wasn't around you because of where your expertise is in. And so I was excited and from that, we started the business.
Hey there, just popping in quickly. It's April Roberts, and I wanted to thank you for being a loyal listener of the Vixen Voice. It means so much to me. And because of that, we're going to be popping in these little announcements because I want you to be the first to know what's going on at the Vixen Gathering. So if you haven't done so yet, click the link below and check out the Vixen Founders Collective. The members who are already in are raving, and we would love to have you join us in the ultimate business consulting, networking, and personal growth community for Gen X female founders. See you there. I love it. I just think it's so important to be courageous and try new things because you never know where it's going to lead you. I mean, think you're at church and
Right.
someone said, you two need to talk. And then that led you to
I'm
this
telling you.
group that was important to make decisions in your current career, and then met
Yes.
Christine, and you guys are doing
Yes.
amazing things together. And I just,
Yes.
and you mentioned church. So I know we can talk about this, but
Yes.
God works in ways that we don't understand. And so if we
Thank you,
get
Lord.
caught up in this, like, why is this happening?
Right.
We don't understand because he
Yes.
sees so much clearer than we do. And and so whatever your belief system is, most people believe in a higher good. Just trust that there's more meant for you out there. Like, we can't even imagine all the amazing things that could happen to us. And so if we
Right.
limit ourselves to our planning and what we think can happen, we're just limiting our potential. So I love your story so much. And it came
Thank
to me to talk to you about when you worked at Papados. First of all, I
you.
lived in Houston forever, so loved Papados. But anyway, you shared with me, because when I was a guest on your podcast, I gave you a couple of compliments, I think during or before or after. And then, you and I did a couple of like networking calls and coaching sessions.
Yes.
And you're just always so
Yes.
graceful in receiving compliments. Like, you just say, thank you. And like, that's it. There's no explanation. There's no like over explaining like most of us women do. And I was like, wow, I need to get better at that. So you inspired me to do that. So first of all, I want to thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
that.
much.
You're welcome.
Yes.
And then second, I know you learned that when you were waiting tables at Papados. Am I correct?
So I think I might have been managing. Was I serving?
Yes.
I don't remember which position I was in, but I
Yeah.
do remember which table I was at, okay? And I went up to the table and which glasses they were, because these round glasses, these round like Harry Potter glasses with like rose gold or something with some gold. They were cute.
Yeah.
And this gentleman complimented me on them, right? And I said, "Thank you so much, but they're cracked." And he said, "Women do that all the time." And I think he asked me if he could show me something, and he showed me that women do that all the time. We give you compliments and then you cut it down because you explain it. And I said, I don't usually do it. I don't think I usually did it, but that wasn't the time to say that because I had just
Right.
done it. So it was just like a take the lesson and the time saved in your life and all of the compliments that you actually get to take now. So I appreciated his time. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing I shifted is, a lot of times people would tell me thank you, and I'd be like, no problem. And so now I'm very careful to say you're welcome, because I think it's just polite to
Yes.
deliver it back to them, right? And I think that was part of my understanding of receiving and giving, that it's a full cycle instead of giving, 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 and then saying, no, I'm good. And like,
Yes.
the other person doesn't feel good because there's not that exchange of energy, right? And so, I just think these little tweaks can change so much. I mean, first of all, you show up
Yes.
differently in business if you operate this way. But number two, I think it's just being a good human being. So I just wanted to like have you share that story and point that out. And yeah,
Yes.
I'd love to kind of hear what else you learned working at Papados, because I
So
love,
much.
in fact, a lot of my one-on-one consulting clients, I'll have them if they're starting a new, but usually if I'm working one-on-one with someone, I do work with some companies that have leadership teams, but usually it's because they're starting a business or they're switching careers. So they need kind of customized attention, right? And first thing I'm
Yes.
like, go through your resume, pick the biggest lesson you learned at each job, and like write a story about it, right? Because I think it's so beautiful to reflect on our history and everything that got us to where we are. Because I grew up in my grandfather's dry cleaners working, and I worked every
Mhm.
position in there, including assembly line in the back in South Mississippi and, 100-degree heat. I would call it like
Mhm.
my bikini like diet, right? Because you're working 10 hours a day in the back of a dry cleaners, you were dropping
Yes.
pounds like
Right.
nobody's business. But I
Right.
would work there in the summer, and like I just have so many fond memories of working there and the lessons I learned. Like people are always like, how do you know how to spell my name, or why are names? I'm like, oh my gosh, do you know how many people's names I wrote on tickets? And we had a military base there, so it was, all kinds of
Mhm.
ethnicities, backgrounds, and like I just learned that people would light up when I knew their name when they walked in the door. And to this day, that is so important to
Yes.
me. So I just want to encourage, if you're listening, look back on all your jobs. Obviously, what you're doing today is so different, but I'd love you to like maybe reflect on that or another job you had along the path, and what's like a lesson or something that sticks with you today.
I want to do that exercise.
Yeah, do it.
Yes, yes. I think it'll help with the my therapist or the last one that I was seeing gave me a homework of doing gratitudes for the business. And
Yeah.
I think that would help me do gratitudes for the positions. I think that's good.
I love that
Yes.
because, I work with my spiritual healer. I do spiritual healing, but I've had one since 2019, and I work with him on my personal and the business because you want to keep the flow of the business clean, right? And so I think by you
Yes.
infusing gratitude into your business, it re-energizes it. It's so crazy. I have some people that go in, will message to try to get appointment setters to try to get appointments with me, and I notice like when they message versus me messaging, like I'll get 3 out of 10 on my calendar where they get 1 out of 10. And there's no difference except the energy behind going out. And that's the challenge as a business owner, because you are going to be more passionate than anyone else about what you do. And to fill your capacity and leverage your time, you have to learn, to work with other people and leverage. But I think if you
Yes.
do the gratitude exercise, it will infuse energy in your business and people will feel it. It really shows up differently. So I love that.
That's beautiful.
Perfect. Well,
That's
I want to
beautiful.
talk about capacity quickly. I know we're almost out of time,
Yes.
and then I'd love for us to segue into insurance because I know you're passionate about all your businesses, but insurance kind of has a special place for you. So
Yes.
let's touch on capacity quickly because I
Okay.
think it's what many business owners don't consider, right? They're just like, how much can I squeeze into a day? And it sounds to me like you're defining capacity a little bit different than me, but capacity to me isn't just the hours in the day, but how much energy you have for it, how much confidence you have for it, how much brain power you have. Like I hear so many women and men beat themselves up because, oh my, well, I actually hear this more from women, to be honest. I have a ton of guy friends who are business owners and they're just kind of like, okay, I'm done going home, or yeah, I work this much. Like, I don't know. I feel they're a
Yes.
little less emotional about it, but we women tend to say, oh my gosh, I can't get everything done in a day. Well, of course you can't, because we're all built differently and we all operate differently. So I think one of
Yes.
the most dangerous things to do is compare yourself to others. So I'd love to hear like your version of capacity and kind of how you explain it.
Absolutely. So I will kind of answer both together, right?
Perfect.
Because you asked about the Papado and what I feel like I learned, and we're talking about capacity and great places to start. One of the biggest things I learned, and I didn't even realize, I thought I knew how big of a lesson it was until I got to Topgolf, and I said, "Oh, I am so glad I have this skill," right? And it's being able to know where you are based on the system. And especially as business owners, right? Because when we talk about setting up a schedule, schedules are difficult. This is not like that's a skill, you know what I mean? To be and then to be able to double dutch with emergencies and miscommunications and somebody forgot or like whatever happens, whatever happens. And so knowing that if it starts at 11, the system says you have a 5 minute gauge, just like we were talking about with the time budget earlier. Knowing where you stand makes it easier to know where to give and take, right? When I was a manager, they were telling me, "Oh, Shannon, you're so black and white." I didn't feel like I was always black and white, but I had to learn the system so I knew where to put my anchor down and how far out my boat could go, And I was
Mm-hmm.
just trying to learn the system. And I think that as business owners, that can help us as with our capacity as well, right? Because why are we trying to fit all this stuff into one day? Is it because
Right.
it's Thursday and tomorrow's Black Friday and you think that you're 2 weeks late? I thought I was 2 weeks late in the first year. You have this one of your episodes you were talking about first year struggles, right? I
Yeah.
thought I was late on the in the first year being 2 weeks behind. No, if you're Thursday and tomorrow's Black Friday, you're 3 months behind. Right? And so it's why are we operating this way so that we can look at what's realistic based on what needs to be done, and then yes, checking in with yourself, right? If this is the anniversary of somebody passing away, it makes sense that this week might look different, you know. Maybe you don't even need to work that day. Maybe that's
Yeah.
not the week you do the podcast. Just take it off. Why make it
Yeah.
difficult, you know? Go ahead, what were we
No,
going to
I
say?
love that. One of the, the book Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements, one is always do your
Yes.
best. And I always
Hmm.
explain, I mean, if you got the flu, your best is 30% of your normal capacity, right? Like
Right.
if you feel you
Yes.
need to give something, give the 30% and celebrate that you showed up the
Yes.
30%, right? Or like you said, if it's a actually it's crazy you say that because I was chatting with a woman yesterday who was going to attend
Yes.
Saturday. I have a 3 hour master class, and she was like, "I'm so
Oh.
sorry, I don't think I can make it. Today would have been the 20th anniversary for me, my wedding, but my spouse passed away, and so I had to leave work. It was so difficult,
Of
so I have to
course.
work Saturday." And like, I was like, "Oh my gosh, sending you so much love and hugs. Like, let's connect after the weekend." But like, I think yes, we should feel free to honor ourselves and that moment. And you know what? This is just too difficult. And we just had a long weekend, and I didn't realize how badly I needed that weekend. If you asked me the week before, I would have been like, "Oh, I'm cool. I'm not stressed. Everything's great." And then I got in the weekend. I'm like, okay, I need to pencil this in more often. Like, I definitely
Yes.
need this. So,
Yes.
I agree, learn your self capacity, but then give yourself grace when you violate your own capacity because we're all
Hmm.
driven women and we're going to violate our capacity. It's almost like built into our DNA, right? And then just take the lesson and reset. What were you going
Well,
to
I
say?
wanna I wanna like tweeze some of that out, right?
Yeah, tell
Because
me.
we talked about the 30%, and I heard this on
Yeah,
on a podcast the other day, right? Or one YouTube video. I've been watching so much stuff recently,
yeah.
and I think it was on Instagram, and this video was talking about how it's not fair for us to ask 100% capacity of ourselves because like you're saying we're not always at 100%, right? But the way I would tweeze that out is that if you give 30 and you had 30, you gave 100%.
Agreed.
That's what you did. And that's the difference. When we talk about treatment and what people need to be well, the reason we're trying to generalize everything like seasoning in a restaurant for everybody, right, is because it takes time to get to the details of what April specifically needs. But we have to get there for ourselves, right? And if today is 35, then I give 35 and I won
Yeah.
because I had something to give and I gave it. Um,
Yeah.
and the four agreements, which one did you bring up again?
Always do your best.
Yeah, and that's what you're doing. And oh, you said sometimes we might violate it. I think that sometimes we have to know that there are going to be busy days, right? And
Yeah.
Papito taught me that too, right? Like the cycle in business of the holidays and being ready for it. And so now I consider it like Super Bowl, right? I talked
Yeah.
about Top Golf earlier. And when we talk about time management, expectations, and this is what you thought might happen or what you wanted or what you scheduled, right, as a manager,
Yeah.
and this is what actually happened. I had the opportunity to do inventory count the day after Super Bowl right? And this is a six-figure inventory.
Yeah.
So you're there at 5 a.m. and you're like, it's a thing, right? And I had my two people I had scheduled to help me. And this one gentleman had a Super Bowl party. Of course he did. Of course he was late. Of course, all these things, right? I knew for myself sometimes you have Super Bowls and you're gonna be tired, but you gotta show up and play. I was in band, right? So you gotta play full out and it's game day and you just gotta go. And sometimes in business, I might be tired, but I know this is a Super Bowl
Yep.
and I need to show up for myself. And after the Super Bowl, we will rest. But that is not all the time, right? Usually we need to be on our rhythms so that we're sustainable and realistic.
Yeah, I love that. And I call it seasons of life. I think I got that from
Hmm.
Amy Porterfield. Like sometimes it's just a season where maybe you have to grind because you have a launch or you have something going on.
Yeah,
But
open
I think the
enrollment.
key you said is, yeah, exactly. You have that coming up.
Hmm.
So, the key is to allow that time to rest and recuperate afterwards. Be like, okay, this
Yes,
week's going to be crazy, or let me fit
yes.
in pockets of sanity
Hmm.
during this week,
Yes.
or the 30 minutes for my lunch, make it a non negotiable and just, okay, I'm going to work
Yes.
30 minutes longer so I can have this breather. But yeah,
Yes.
no, I totally agree. I love that tweak that you made. So I do want to, if you have time, I know we're running
Yes.
out here, but I would love for you
Hmm.
to share with us what brought you to insurance. And I know you're very passionate about insurance.
Yes.
And in my past career, I dealt with insurance as well. And I definitely saw the difference it makes in people's lives. So I'd love for you to share
Hmm.
your passion for your insurance business and how you're helping
Yes.
women and families through it.
Yes. So passionate because, again, one of those pivotal moments for me was figuring out which of these women on the sidewalk was my mom, right? As a
Yeah.
17-year-old, like that's interesting. To then go to, okay, I'm in college, right? 4 years, went to Papado and moved up very quickly. So it's like blocks of years, seven
Yep.
years. And I'm gone investing professionally in myself, which we talk about on the
Mm-hmm.
Vixen Voice, right? And then she gets sick. And the question is, how did you use your time, right? Do you feel like do you feel like you did your best? Okay. My thing that I got caught up on was there would be 3 weeks. She might call me every week, and it might take me 3 weeks to call her back. And I
Mm-hmm.
had to sit with, and we talk about noticing instead of judging. Why is
Mm-hmm.
that? Why did you wait 12 years to meet her and you don't call her back? But I had to wrap my mind around, okay, you had to deal with her being schizophrenic, right? You had to deal with she was in Atlanta up the street and you didn't know. Like for a country girl, up the street
Yeah.
is 45 minutes. It was 45
Yeah.
minutes away from Hiram, right? But she was right here and I didn't know if
Yeah.
she was alive or dead. That was my question for the 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad knew, and he was doing his best to protect me as a single father. And we all make
Mm-hmm.
decisions, right? And that's what I think about with life insurance. The decisions that we make, are we actually covered? What's, do we have everything we need to have everything taken care of? And when she passed
Yeah.
away, it was one of my women connected, one of my ladies in business, someone who brought me into the network marketing business, Linda. We were with Nerium that changed to Neora, and she was huge in my entrepreneurial journey, right? And she knew my mind was all over the place, talking about intellectual
Mm-hmm.
wellness. She said, "Stop making calls. Don't talk to anybody else. Let me make a call to elder somebody at the church," right? And she called me
Right.
back and got us set up with the crematory. But before that, I didn't like it took so long, April, to the fact I called after everything was taken care of, after they were able to take care of my mom, and the guy told me, "Yep, make sure that you don't take so long next time." I said, "Excuse me?" So when
Right.
we talk about hospitality and taking care of people and families having what they need, that from a psychology background and knowing the detriment that that could blow somebody who wasn't okay, who didn't know how to be connected to the resources, I said, oh, I definitely want to help people be connected this way. So yeah, I shared earlier this week, and I'll end with this, that when I was growing up, I was thinking about being a licensed marriage and family therapist or a minister, right? And that
Yeah.
was to help people heal and to be able to help the children in the family, the couple, and the family unit as a whole. So the wellness is great, right? That's proactive, that's intentional while we're here. But what about all of our work being covered? and the people who are here after we transition, we want everything to be as smooth as possible for this transition that we cannot opt out of. And that's where the passion comes from it, for it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you for
Yes.
sharing that. It's really beautiful because
Yes.
I don't think, a lot of times every life insurance, health insurance, car insurance, and stuff, like everybody's like, I don't really want that. And you have to understand the deeper meaning because,
Yes.
in my financial planning business, I mean, I saw many times where a spouse passed away and we walked the surviving spouse or the children through like taking care of everything. And you
Yeah.
are at limited capacity. And what I saw was if you had that life insurance there, it just kicked in immediately. It was the fastest thing you could get, really, right? And
Hmm.
so, while it doesn't bring your loved one back, when you are in
Right.
this moment of limited capacity due to grief, etc., it just really helped the transition because it would have just piled more on. Not that it necessarily
Yes.
healed anyone in that moment, but it stops from more issues being piled on. So I
Yes.
too am very passionate about it, and I love what you do, and I can't wait to
Thank
see
you.
the difference you make.
Yes, yes, I'm excited. And I appreciate you. You have been instrumental. And, along the journey, you have those people, and you've been that for me in insurance. And you know that. I appreciate you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you for the
Yes,
compliment.
thank you. Yes,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Well, Shannon, to wrap up, we're going to pivot a little bit because I
Okay.
always like to ask. I like to talk about our
Yes.
feminine energy. Now, to be clear, I think we have to
Mhm.
balance feminine and masculine, yin and yang, whatever you want to call it, right? But
Yes.
to operate on this earth as human beings. But so many women are shying away from their feminine essence because corporate America is so masculine, the Western world is very masculine, linear thinking, etc. So I like to invite women back into their feminine essence. So my question for you is, when do you feel the most feminine? Like, when is that energy flowing through you?
That's a great question. I feel like I would have to think about it more, but I do have an answer. I think it's when I'm cooking.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And that was one of those things that, and this is my story and the way I usually share it, right? That's one of the things that the enemy tried to lie to me to tell me I wouldn't be good at. There's like a list of lies I wrote down in my life before, right? And not knowing my mom, it was definitely, you're not going to be able to cook. Oh, and my food was horrible, April. I didn't even eat it. I was like, I'm not eating this. My
Wow.
dad said he ate it. I said, oh, you love me. Like, you really love me. Like, I didn't know you were supposed to drain the oil off of the ground meat. Like, it was bad, but it's better now, right? And still
Yeah.
ended up being kitchen manager. And my mom bought me this cookbook. If I ever saw one of her books that I wanted, she would just buy it for me. Shout out to
Oh,
this Martha Stewart Basics of the Home Cook. Okay, like
yes.
I don't know if that's it's good. It's good. So I've been practicing, and just now, like being a kitchen manager in the home kitchen, I'm like having fun with the mise en place and organizing everything. And I think that's it.
I love it. That's so funny because I had a Southern living, like thick cookbook guide to it even
Yeah.
taught you like how to boil an egg, how to make a fried
Hmm.
egg, like how to make
It's a
ground
thing,
meat, like
yo.
all the basics.
Yes.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
loved
Because
it.
if you don't know,
And
you just don't know.
no, and the Whole 30 cookbook is really good at that too. They have a lot of basics for preparing protein at the beginning. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you. It's so
Yes.
funny. I went to law school and, of course, never knew how to cook. My mom didn't really cook. I mean, she had three kids that were very involved. So she kind of was like, well, nobody was home to eat. Why would I cook? And I'm like, fair enough, right? And I go to law school, and one of my best friends just loved cooking, so I would like cook with her. And I came home, and or she would cook for me, and I came home, and my mom's like, "What do you want for dinner?" And I was like, "Oh, I want pork chops and something." And she was like, "Are you my child? Like, where did you learn to eat this food?" And I'm like, "Oh, my friend cooks for me."
Right.
And then I had my friend teach me. So then I came home and I was cooking, and she was like, who are you? Like, I don't understand this. But yeah,
I'm
I actually
evolved.
love cooking too. Yeah, I evolved.
Yes. Yes. And that's one of the ways, again, I told you earlier, I romanticize it. Like, plate presentation has to be on. I'm making
Yes.
sure it's balanced, it's delicious, and yeah,
It's so
it's
funny because I
important.
shared with you I'm on the meal plan now, and so she's like, "Hey, when
Yes.
you're traveling or rush, just keep this rule, like half the plate is veggies, like a quarter is protein, and a quarter is either healthy fats or healthy grains, right? And like, so at the beginning, she like has me send her all my pictures, and I'm the same as you. So I'm like making everything sure it's arranged beautifully. And I realized like if the plate looks beautiful, I'm totally cool with it. Like I don't need to eat certain things, but like the aesthetics of the food means so much to me. So if it's
Yes.
healthy but it's beautiful, I'm like, oh, great. Because you want to enjoy that moment. It's just a moment of joy, right? So I
Yes.
love that so much.
Yes.
Okay, so cooking is when you feel most feminine. Love that because there's creativity, there's
Yes.
nurturing. There's so much that goes into cooking
Yes.
that is
There's
feminine
dance.
essence. Yes, I
Yes.
put
There's
music on too when
music.
I'm cooking.
Yes. Yes. You gotta have a good time. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And no, and when I do cook, I find it's a nice break between the workday and the evening. Like it really helps me to like
Yes.
leave everything behind. It's a beautiful ritual. So my last question is, what color would your feminine essence or energy be, or what color is it?
Oh, I love this color. I think it is orange.
Yeah. I knew it when you showed up this morning. I love it with
Yeah.
your beautiful orange shirt.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, after 100 and something episodes of asking this question, I've gotten pretty good at guessing it. So I've been stumped a
Oh,
couple of
really?
times, but I like it. I had orange for you, so I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I
Well,
I
Shannon,
received that.
no, it's great. It matches your personality too. So today, as we wrap up, if you're listening, Shannon talked about
Yes.
so many things she does. If you want to look into her publishing company, her community
Yes.
for women, her podcast, her health insurance agency, Shealo Glo, all the information
Yes.
is in the show notes. And if you haven't subscribed, go to vixengathering.com. Go to the podcast page
Mm.
and subscribe, and we will send all these amazing
Yes.
resources to your inbox every week so you don't have to search. But what I would love for you to do is let Shannon know how you love this episode. If you're watching us on YouTube, comment below and we'll communicate back and forth as a conversation. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, leave an amazing review. Go check out her podcast. Leave her an amazing review. As you can see, she's so graceful and awesome at taking compliments. So let's heap them on her. So anyway, let's stay in touch. You can have
Yes.
all her social media contacts as well. So Shannon, as we wrap up, what would your final
Yes.
message to all those like amazing women who are listening to us right now?
We were having this conversation on the podcast last night, and we know we're amazing, right? And we can sometimes we're okay with it, and we still go between not being enough and feeling like we're too much sometimes. And if you feel like all of those things, I just want you to know that you are worthy of love, right? Self-love, of being healed, of community that's aligned. And if you feel like you need help and you've been asking for it and you can't talk right now, or you're so tired you feel like you can't talk, just rest and try again and reach out again. And the Vixen voice is amazing. April's podcasts are amazing. The women over here in Women Connected in Wisdom are amazing. And we'll get you connected to the tailored resources you need.
Yeah, I love it. Tap into a community if you're listening, whatever community
Yeah.
you choose. Like being part of an
Yes.
amazing group of women. I see it in our Vixen Founders Collective. Like the women just love sharing things with each
Mm.
other, and it's so beautiful. I just love it. So thank you so much,
Yes.
Shannon. It's been an amazing
You're
talk. I'm
welcome.
glad we were finally able to do this between your and my
I
calendars
know.
and our capacity. It's been a bit, but we made it happen. So
Yes, we did.
and we did, and I'm super excited for that. And if you're listening, I just want to remind you, as I always say, the world needs more love. How can you show up lovingly today to yourself and to others, right? And so have a fantastic day, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks again for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit subscribe so future episodes are automatically downloaded directly to your device. And if you want access to today's show notes, including links to all the resources we mentioned, visit vixengathering.com/podcast. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week for another episode of The Vixen Voice.